So let's talk to Paul Richards now, former Labour Party Special Advisor, who very kindly has hung on to speak to us. Good morning to you, Paul.
Hello, good morning.
I'm still on Indian Ocean time, mate. I've got no idea what's going on.
Don't worry.
It's a hard life. First world problems. Paul, I want to talk to you about some asylum stories in the news, but I must ask you first of all about the resignations of the Director General and the Head of News at the BBC.
Yeah.
Do you welcome them going, and do you think anything will change?
Well, I've known Tim Davie a long time. He's a perfectly decent chap, a Conservative Party supporter, of course, not part of the woke Liberati, but I think he was
There's
just
plenty of woke Tory supporters.
I think, well, true. I think, to be honest, though, it was an accumulation of scandals. It wasn't just this latest one with Trump, but also the Glastonbury fiasco, all kinds of other editorial foul-ups. And I think he just got to the point where for the BBC to renew its charter next year, it's going to need somebody else at the helm to take that.
But isn't the issue, I mean, listen, no one thinks that Tim Davie went, let's put Bob Villan on and leave the feed on that has to be. Nobody thinks that he paid the £1,000 to the son of a Hamas official to host a Gaza documentary. No one thinks that he personally said to Gary Lineker, yeah, go and post all those tweets, including the anti-Semitic joke. Or yeah, why do you? Hey, I'm sitting in the editing room with Panorama. Let me tell you should spice this. No one thinks he's personally responsible, or even Deborah Turness, the head of news. But the point is, when they find out about these things, they keep them quiet. They sit on them. No one's disciplined unless you do an eye roll about pregnant people on BBC. You don't get in trouble.
They both resigned. I mean, I think
they haven't resigned because of that. They've resigned because of the outcry over it, which is different.
I think it's because all of it accumulating to the point where they have to go. It's like ministers, the ministers aren't responsible for individual acts of, let's say, a prison officer. But on the other hand, they are ultimately responsible, and the buck does stop somewhere. So Tim's done the honourable thing of venturing to see who replaces him and whether it leads to actually systemic change of the kind we need. I mean, I agree with you completely that the Gaza coverage has been a disgrace. I think this splicing of the tape of Trump is just pure propaganda, completely wrong. Somebody in the room will have done that, by the way. Yeah. So who is that?
It's not a mistake.
Are they resigning?
Well, they shouldn't resign. They should be sacked and lose their pension. Sure, they should. I'm sorry. That's a sacking offence. It's as simple.
Well, let's find out who they are then, because it's all very well and good. To say,
as one of our callers pointed out, there'll be credits for that Panorama. Who was the editor? Who was the director? Who was exec producer? There you go.
And was it not a production company? So I mean, are they going to carry a contract with the BBC? So that the other people need to take the blame for their actual actions, as well as Tim Davie taking the blame for the overall foul up. But what's next? I think why is the board so opaque? How do they get appointed? How do I apply to be on that?
Yeah.
I've never seen a job advert for that job, and that's an important role, as we've discovered. How do we shed more light on it? If the BBC, which I support, by the way, Julia, if it's going to survive in some form or other, and maybe there will be more commercialisation, but if it's going to survive as a national broadcaster, it's going to be more open and transparent about how it's run and who runs it.
Do you think that anything will change? Because if they're saying, and Deborah Turness in a comment she made this morning on the way into work, because they haven't left just yet, saying, we are not, BBC is not institutionally biased. I mean, I think if you don't even recognise that it's got institutional biases, you can't even begin to solve the problem. Nick Robinson basically claiming, to all intents and purposes, this is a conspiracy against the BBC internally and externally. Do you think that's the truth?
Well, I think both things can be true. I think there are lots of people who would like to bring down the BBC, and that's obvious.
Most of them seem to work at the BBC in high level, if you ask me.
Either for commercial reasons or political reasons or any other kind of reasons. But it's also true that you can't tar the entire institution with the brush of a few idiots that have done some very bad things.
Met Police is institutionally racist, we were told.
Well, I think that's a separate issue.
No, I'm just saying, for you to... Literally, it's completely the norm on the left to tar an entire institution with a particular viewpoint.
Oh, I see. Well, I don't think the BBC is in that boat, but I do think there are problems, and I think they need to be addressed beyond, just getting the head to roll. I think certainly the Select Committee today is going to look at this, and I think that's a good start. You need parliamentary oversight. It is taxpayers' money after all.
Good point.
But I think. But I do think that, whoever is actually directly responsible, the person who sat there with, I don't know what it looks like now, but, spools of tape and a slicing knife, whatever it is these days, digital version of that, whoever's done that needs to come out and say sorry and be sacked as well.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more on that front. Let me talk to you about another story which we'd already invited you on to talk about, which was the asylum seekers, we're told by a Home Office, are going to be given £100 a week if they agree to leave taxpayer-funded hotels, which are costing on average £145 a night, under plans to be considered by ministers. They're proposing migrants use the money to pay to live with a family or an individual they know, to basically get them out of asylum hotels that cost too much money and, let's face it, attract too much bad publicity, and then get them into, you know, probably sleeping on someone's sofa. They'll still get the 49 quid allowance they get a week, plus that 100 quid, not just one-off, a week. Is that the solution to the mass, illegal migration problem?
Well, you can't have it both ways. People have been clamouring to close these hotels. A absolutely disastrous policy, by the way, and it hasn't worked and it's been terrible. So let's get rid of the hotels. But where are they going to go instead? And to put them in with a lot of the pull factors for people coming on the boats is that they know people here already. Well, okay, they can stay with them. And £100, to you and I sounds like a lot of money. But I mean, in the overall scheme of things, of these profiteering hotel bosses who are trousering it in on this failed
only because
scheme.
The Home Office can't negotiate for toffee.
Yeah, agreed. It's a disaster, public policy disaster, which is why the Labour government is saying we're going to close the hotels and end the policy because it just doesn't work.
Well, the Tories said they were going to do that as well. Well, I don't want these people out of hotels and living in the house next door to me. I want these people in internment camps and then shipped off home. I don't want them on the streets.
An internment camp, is one view, isn't it? I don't know how you put 80,000 people into an internment camp.
Yeah, it's kind of the problem, isn't it?
And then when you have people saying, OK, well, let's put them in these disused military bases, like the one in Crowborough, people are demonstrating against that as well. But like I say, if you want to close the hotels, you have to have a policy that means people go somewhere. And a small incentive to get out of the hotels and go and stay with a friend or a neighbour or a family member may be one of the solutions. It's not the only solution. Shabana Mahmood has talked about a Denmark-style system over the weekend, which is a much tougher version. Denmark is a social democratic government, but they've got super tough with the asylum system, and they are disincentivizing people to come and making the
numbers they've actually managed to deport on the basis their super tough system isn't really up to scratch. I just want to ask one more question though, because apparently leaked Home Office documents suggest the government has identified at least 14 sites where up to 10,000 migrants can be placed as part of a major shake-up. Again, this idea there are all these places where you can put migrants, but isn't this is an internal geographical problem and a cost problem, as opposed to dealing with the actual problem? Is A, these people are still here after all these years, B, we can't get rid of them, and C, more of them are coming.
Well, we certainly need to stop the boats. We certainly need to speed up the repatriation of people who shouldn't be in the first place. And that shouldn't take a year to sort it out. But in the meantime, while people are being processed, let's get them out of these hotels, which are flashpoints, as we've said, and get them into camps, maybe ex-RAF, ex-military bases, or whatever it might be around the country, which is what this Home Office plan seems to involve. But people don't like the hotels. So the Labour government is closing the hotels. Job done.
They don't want the migrants here. I would rather have them in hotels where we know where they are.
Well, that's an unpopular...
Other than in camps. But I don't want them living on an MOD base and wandering in and out freely. I want them in an MOD base surrounded by barbed wire.
Well, again, that's a view, isn't it? But I think it'd be far better
majority
if they're
view.
I would put them in high vis. I'd have people out in teams picking up litter, sorting out graffiti, cleaning up canals and doing something useful for their £49 a week, rather than just sitting around doing nothing in a camp.
Yeah, or we could just get them, making dinghies and making their way home. Paul Richards, so appreciate you hanging on to talk to us. Former Labour Party Special Advisor Paul Richards there. Thank you very much.